This is my PC, and in it, I have a $0 GPU. Let's find out if it can play games or not. And you might be asking, Klowski, how did you get a $0 gaming GPU? Well, I went on Facebook Marketplace and saw a seller selling it for completely free, and the GPU is Quadro K2000. This card is a workstation card, but in this video, I'll be gaming on it. This card uses the GK107 chipset, which also is featured in cards like the GT1030, the GTX 650, and even the GT10, the piece of poo that it is. Anyways, this card was released back in 2013 for an MSRP around $500 to $600, and it came with 2 GB of GDDR5 RAM and 384 CUDA cores on 128 bus width. While this card is pretty old, it still has enough performance to game. I mean, as you can see, it's got 2 GB of GDDR5, which is alright nowadays, but you can still get away with it while playing lower end titles. Before we get into any benchmarks, I was really curious on how much this card would cost me if I went to buy it today. And it's only around $16, $20, which is really good if you really need a GPU for a low-end PC, because this does not take any power. Compared to the Radeon R5, this is tremendously faster and will give you better performance overall. For everything, I got the GPU inserted into my computer and everything was working, got some drivers installed, and yeah, we'll probably get into our first game, which will be Fortnite. In Fortnite, I ran the game at everything low performance mode at 100% render resolution, and in the FPS test map I was able to get around 105 to 110 FPS looking at nothing. While looking straight into the ground, I was able to get 130 to 140, which was really nice to see that this GPU is actually able to, play the game at 1080p, like our other card, the R5 430. Right here, I dropped the res down to 50%, and we get almost 100 extra FPS, which is really nice to see. I want to also test this in-game, so for the next part, we'll be playing some actual Fortnite real. In-game, we hover around 90 to 100 FPS, dropping down to the low 60s and 70s in high-intensity build fights. But as you can see, the game is very playable. You have to also be reminded that I am recording on the CPU and GPU at the same time. So the FPS is going to be just a tad bit lower than what it usually should be. There are some stutters, but at the end of the game you can see like the stutters just like phase out basically. So that's not much of a problem. This is reload, so it's a little less intense compared to the normal Battle Royale, but I'd see the FPS being around the same, if not identical. As you can see right here, I'm in a build fight, which is a little bit more intense than the usual fights I was taking. And you can see that the FPS is still stable, dropping into the low 70s here. I get into a fight, bullets are going, builds are happening, and the FPS is still stable. And unfortunately, around here, this is probably my last fight, but as you can see, getting spammed from 2 directions. Circle's smaller, so a lot of people will be near each other. It's a perfect transition to our next game, which is Rocket League. In Rocket League, as you can see, the game defaults to all high settings, but we're obviously not going to play at all high settings. We're going to play at performance settings, which I do right here. I drop everything down to its lowest settings, and I get around 100 FPS in the menus, but more like 130 in game. As you can see, really nice FPS at 1080p compared to the R5 430, which couldn't even get 30 FPS on the lowest settings. In training, we get about 100 to 110 FPS, and it's alright for the most part. You would probably want to lower your settings down to performance like I do in game, where it gives me around 130 FPS. As you can see, in 2s, we're getting still around that 110, 130 FPS range. And yeah, it's playing pretty well, can't lie. Honestly, Rocket League can be really weird with its FPS. But yeah, it works. I'm able to play at 1080p while also recording, which is really nice. You have to remember, if you're not recording, you'll probably get like an extra 10 FPS here and there. But yeah, I try to go for a flip reset. In Valorant, I'm playing at 1080p low settings, move on to our next game, which I'm is around Valorant. Everywhere around from 140 to 200 FPS in the range. As you can see, when I'm looking straight in the sky, I can get up to almost 300 FPS. But to get a more accurate reading, if I go to this certain spot in training, I could see that I only get around 160 to 180 FPS, which is closer to what it's going to be like in-game. Right here I was curious on how much FPS this would get at high settings, and surprisingly it got 120 FPS, which is better than the computers that I last reviewed, which only got maybe 30 to 40 FPS, but this one was able to get 120. Anyways, let's get into our in-game reviews. As you can see, in-game I'm getting around 110 to 150 FPS, which it keeps fluctuating because of my CPU. If you have a better CPU like a Ryzen 5 3600, not even, like a Ryzen 5 1600, you should be able to get a higher amount of FPS and have it more stable. But yeah, in hectic situations, it goes down to the low 90s to 110s. As you can see by the gameplay, it's really stable. It's not that it's dropping down tremendously. It's still able to give high refresh rate gaming. As you can see, I get shot here, a whole bunch of utils being used, but the FPS is still pretty stable, giving me above 100 FPS at all times, which is better than the laptop that we've once reviewed. Also, another reminder is that this is getting recorded, so the FPS is a little lower than it should be. You would probably get maybe 10 to 20 more FPS here, so it'll be probably around 140 to 160 FPS in game. But yeah, as you can see, 1080p Valorant gameplay, very nice. This brings us to our next game, which is Minecraft. Minecraft is playing at its fancy preset, so everything's on fancy, plus I'm playing on 16 chunks and 12 simulation chunks, which is more CPU dependent, but it still should give us some decent FPS. As you can see, in-game, I'm getting around 70 to 100 FPS, most likely because of the low RAM and the older CPU, but the GPU is still pulling through, giving us a very playable experience. Anyways, I try and stress out the GPU as much as possible by rendering as many chunks and also blowing up some TNT, which you will see in the future. As you can see with the TNT exploding, the FPS drops down to a little bit of 30 to 40, and it's alright. This is not going to happen all the time to you, so it'll still be playable. But as you can see, I'm trying out some shaders, and these shaders really surprise me. I'm using light shaders, so they're not the most demanding shaders, but they still give you really good visuals. As you can see here, I dropped down my chunks to 8 just to give it a little bit more room. As you can see, I'm getting anywhere from 40 to 50 FPS on the highest, but dropping down to the 30s most likely. And yeah, even with shaders, this GPU is just not giving up. My old GPU would not be able to do this, which is crazy. But yeah, these visuals are really nice, I can't lie. Here you can see me placing down some TNT just to, you know, figure out what the basic limit is for this GPU with shaders. As you can see, it gets down there to the low 10s. But this will mark the end of our video. Would I recommend people to buy this GPU? Probably not. If you go on the Facebook Marketplace right now, you could probably find a GTX 1050 Ti for around the same price, around 20 bucks, which is much faster and has more VRAM, and you still have gaming drivers. You gotta keep in mind, this is an enterprise card, so it's only for workstation uses. But yeah, overall, this $0 GPU has surprised me, and I can't wait to review more GPUs like this. Anyways, see you in the next video. Peace.